Hi everybody, we're back. Well, I'm back. This is Stephanie from City Museum. I am waiting for you guys to show up. I am the retail director and historian by virtue of tenacity at City Museum. And I hope that you are all watching our videos and learning along with us as we're a week into this now. And I have a whole new respect for Instagram influencers and YouTube content providers and all that kind of stuff, because it is a much bigger challenge than you'd think, or than I would have thought. Anyway, so we are doing a City Museum from home, some of us. I know that a lot of, really what you want to see is City Museum. People want tours, you want stuff about the museum, and kind of hard to do since we're not there. We've got, CJ's been riding some slides this week, and we've had a few posts from the museum itself, but by and large, we're all working from home, so we'll try to keep you engaged, and if not, you can just kind of watch us ramble on. That's fun too. Hi, City Museum. I guess that's you, Nancy. Hi, Maria. Hi, Tracy. Anyway, so I don't have a timer, so I'm just going to kind of talk and see what's going on here. You're supposed to take 5 minutes to engage your audience, a full 5 minutes. So, hi, Tracy. Oops, so that's not Nancy. Hello, Maria. Okay, so anyway, a couple other people on here that I don't know, so hello to you too. Make yourself known. Again, I'm Stephanie Vondrasik. I am the retail director and historian by virtue of tenacity with City Museum here in St. Louis, Missouri. And again, we're doing City Museum from home. So those of you that have been to City Museum, you may have noticed that there's a lot of, you know, it's a fabulous play place and a beautiful, beautiful spot. But there's a lot of what you may not know is that some of City Museum was built on people's collections. In the beginning, way back in 1997 when we opened and before, there was a whole lot of space to fill. Even though Bob and the crew were building some big and wonderful things, we still had 187,000 square feet to fill. So in some spots, you know, there were people who had collections that kind of piqued Bob's interest. And, you know, collecting, I think, is part of the human condition for some people. You know, you want to find something that amuses you or amazes you, or sometimes collections just sort of happen by accident. You find one or two or three of something, and all of a sudden, you know, you just kind of start building. So some of the collections that we have at the museum have resulted in some of our most beloved spots, actually. The Shoelace Factory is one person's collection. The Bug Room, if you've been to the Bug Room, that is our building manager, George. That's he's collected all those things his whole life. The Privy Digger Museum, hi Lori. The Privy Digger Museum, which is actually one of my favorites. It's Jim Miners, and he has made an avocation of digging up old outhouse spaces around St. Louis and I guess elsewhere. And there's all kinds of fascinating bits and pieces and whole pieces in there. That particular exhibit has been in 3 different spots in the museum, and it's currently occupying just a whole wall and a half of space of cases. And it's just a fascinating thing. There's everything in there from marbles to dolls to guns to place settings, all kinds of things. So And that's kind of one that just sort of sneaks up on you. So if you haven't seen that, I suggest you definitely find it or find one of us and we'll kind of give you a heads up and walk you through it. Anyway, the opera posters in St. George's Gallery, also a small portion of one man's collection. And it's actually, I believe, or at least was, the largest personal collection of opera posters in North America. We have but a small portion of them on exhibit. He is kind enough to hang his posters all over town, so at least they're out and being enjoyed. The Architectural Museum, and indeed, really, so much of City Museum has been built of architectural pieces. The gift shop and ticket windows when you first come in and all over the place. But the Architectural Museum in particular is really kind of the work of pretty much one person. Originally Bruce Gary, who was a dear friend of Bob's, and they collected a lot of architectural elements together. And we've since built on that. The museum has expanded on that with the Sullivan collection. And much of the Sullivan collection actually comes from two collectors. Originally, the Sullivan collection really came from Richard Nickel. That's a whole nother post. Anyway, most recently, our most recent addition is the Vintage Pinball collection. The Vintage Pinball Arcade. Again, one guy's collection. Hi, Robert. You know whose collection that is. Eric, I wish you were watching. But anyway, the Vintage Pinball collection, who is one guy's collection. Again, he lives in a ranch house. Somehow assures us that he still has more machines. So it can really get in there and get you deep. A collection can. In addition, some of our earlier exhibits, in the very earlier days of the museum, were based on one person's collection. We had a big, gorgeous, big multiple gallery display of purses, which was not one of Bob's favorites, but purses, which were gorgeous. We had a toaster exhibit, rather. Again, one man's exhibit. I don't remember his name, but I do remember that he was in the gallery making toast with these vintage toasters. You know, old toasters, not push toasters, the kind that, you would, anyway, I'd never actually seen one until that time, but it was very cool. Yes, Pinball Eric. Yes, he does. A whole house full and still collecting, and that can be part of the problem. Anyway, we also had the shoe exhibit very early on because, of course, we're housed in the old International Shoe Factory. There were a number of components to that exhibit, but one of them was the shoe divas, which were women who had shoe closets and dedicated to their collections. Now this was back in 2000 or something, and somehow that was a whole nother realm back then. But if you had a shoe collection, that was something to be, well, I guess, paid attention to. Anyway, so today I'm going to show you a collection that you won't find in the museum. I like the shoes too. It was fun. You remember that? That is going back a ways, isn't it, RP? Anyway, so today I'm going to show you collections that you won't find in the museum. Today I'm going to show you my collection of vintage Bagnell Dam souvenirs. Now, I'm going to digress a little bit again here. Part of my job at the museum is product development, not just souvenirs, but that's a big part of it, Our founder, Bob Casserly, was very particular about how he wanted the museum to be represented. How he wanted the museum to be represented. He absolutely did not want any form of reproduction of his work and any of the sculptures or anything like that. we had really limited access to drawings or photos or anything. He really didn't want that. He wanted people to come and see it for themselves, which was great the first 4 or 5 years when we were still, building and everything. But as we got to have national and international recognition, I'd say, Bob, people want something to take home to remember it by, But as a result, I think in the beginning, or for the first several years, I had like 4 postcards, and one of them was of the Kool-Aid colored sheep that we had at the museum for a while. But more about that on another post. Anyway, so what did we have? So Bob really preferred to have, to lean on classic toys that he liked when he was a kid and knew kids would like. He'd come in and he'd say, where are the slingshots? Where are the pea shooters? Where are the slinkies? So we'd have slingshots and pea shooters and slinkies, but not a lot of what you would call traditional souvenirs. He did soften up on that a little bit later, but it's really only been in the past, 8, 9, maybe 10 years that we've had things like, shot glasses and t-shirts and stuff like that. Anyway, so I started, Slinkies is right, Lori. Okay, so I started collecting Bagnell Dam stuff. Sorry, and I still think it's funny because I thought it was funny that a hydroelectric power plant was a tourist attraction. So Bagnell Dam, it's a dam. It was constructed from over the time period of August of 1929 until April of 1931. It went into operation. You're excited. Yeah, me too. It went into operation in October of 1931. So it's all right. It's a half-mile long, 148 feet high from bedrock, which this clever thing shows you. This is the Bagnell Dam Visitor's Guide. Obviously, this one's seen better days. But at the time, think about that. So it started construction in August of 1929. Well, of course, in October of 1929 is the stock market crash and the Depression. So it kept hundreds and hundreds of people employed during the Depression. But what's kind of fascinating to me is the rapidity with which they were available, or how quickly they finished it. Less than 2 years, really. August of 29 to April of 31. They managed to finish this massive thing with the kind of construction equipment and standards that they had back then. It's really amazing. So also now this dam is 80-something years old and still in use, still creating electricity, hydroelectric power for parts of Missouri. But what the dam did was created the Lake of the Ozarks. Okay, so Lake of the Ozarks, Midwestern vacation, I don't know about paradise, but extravaganza. Anyway, so, hi Josh. So, again, interests me because there are so many Bagnell Dam specific souvenirs. It's a dam. Now, there are certainly sort of overall souvenirs that feature the dam. There's Missouri, always kind of showing. It's the big one, Bagnell Dam. Fast cruiser on lake. Woo. And then, and on older Missouri items as well. And, you just don't see this kind of stuff too much, at least not modern versions of it anymore. I guess, thank God. So there's the dam. Old Matt's Cabin comes up a lot of Missouri things too, and I have zero recollection of Old Matt's Cabin. Hi, Josh. Anyway, and you can tell this is before 1966 because there's no arch on it. But anyway, so I thought this was hysterical that there were so many souvenirs for this dam. What I'm interested to, as I've gone through my collection stuff, and first of all, I haven't seen most of this stuff in probably 8 or 9 years. It's been packed away, and I went and got it out just for you. And I no longer really actively collect anything because I have far more than I will ever be able to look at in the rest of my life. Anyway, but as I was looking through things, I was very interested in the progression of the quality and design of the souvenirs over the years. Hi, Erin. Hi, Erin. Erin knows about my Bagnell Dam obsession. Anyway. So, the oldest thing that I have, which I think is really cool, and I think actually Aaron's dad might have given me this. He has contributed several important pieces in my collection. And let me backtrack him a little bit here. And this is the first time it's happened on this post. We did have this set up in landscape so that you could see everything out here. But unfortunately, Facebook wouldn't let me do that. It had to be in portrait mode. So I'm just going to show you some things as we go along here. All right. So the oldest thing in my collection is this. It's a hand-painted wood slice. And if you can see that on there, 1936. So kind of a pretty old thing, but and it says right there, souvenir. So even very early on, this was considered some place that you would want to have a souvenir from if you visited it. Okay, and it is hand painted. This one is unsigned. I do have well, of course I put it somewhere. I have one that is Lake of the Ozarks that is signed on the back, but it's not dated, so it's not quite the same thing, is it? So the earlier items, I think, we find things that were a little more useful, a little more well-made. This is kind of one of my favorites. This is a powder box. Would sit on your vanity if you were a lady, or your dressing table or whatever. And it's a souvenir of Bagnell Dam. Now the print on it kind of shows like it might be, maybe 30s, maybe early 40s. It's got sort of a decoy kind of typeface font, and you would put your powder in there, your face powder, and it would sit on your desk or sit on your vanity as a pretty little object, You see these sometimes where they're musical. This one isn't, but it's it's kind of a pretty little thing. But again, you'd want a souvenir is something you'd look at every day. Kind of cool. This one is another little favorite. It's a little wooden autograph or photo album. Still in pretty good shape after all these years. And got a little transfer on it, and that is a souvenir of Bagnell Dam. Good, because I will mention Aaron. I will mention them later. More to come. Another example of nice quality. This is a pretty good sized leather, all leather, double-sided coin purse, a big purse. It's embossed leather, and it's just a pretty little thing, It's something you would actually use. You'd actually put this in your purse and carry it, as opposed to, kind of current souvenirs. All right, and this too. Now, this might be a little bit later, but, I'd still put this mid-century. It's a jewelry box, nicely embossed, made. Oh, and here's a favorite in here, too. Anyway, something else that you would sit out, and use on a daily basis. Talking about use on a daily basis. One of my Hi, Pat. One of my favorites. And again, and look at the quality of the graphics on this thing. My Bagnell Dam measuring tape. Again, you know, and some of these things I've actually done in the store over the years, you know, City Museum measuring tapes and whatnot, and sometimes they just don't translate, I guess now. Maybe people don't use measuring tapes anymore, but this is a pretty little thing. Okay, and another favorite, here's another one. So there's a lot of, you can see a lot of ceramic ware, a lot of souvenir plates, a lot of, you know, things like this, but again, this is a really nice vase. So this is, it's transfer ware, so there would be a transfer on it, and then hand painted, you know. This is a really detailed vase. What is interesting about this is that it's made in Germany. So even in Germany, and I don't know how much of a souvenir trade Germany had. I have seen a few plates over the years, different places, but I mean, this is really a pretty thing. If you would want this sitting out in your home somewhere, I mean, you know, I'd say this is probably 1940s maybe. Kind of a nice thing. Now, one reason why that's interesting is, so much of this was made in Japan. You know, probably 70% of what's up here was made in Japan. But I mean, that doesn't mean that the craftsmanship or the quality was any less. This is a set of salt and pepper shakers, again with the transfer. But this has really nice hand painting. This is actually 3-dimensional hand painted dragons, which is kind of neat. And it's also this pretty pink color, which is, you know, you find this occasionally, but most things were like white. So these are kind of nice, you know. Obviously, salt and pepper shakers are a common souvenir item, and these are gold on the top as well. So there's some care really taken in making these. Bagnell Dam salt and pepper shakers, right? Let's see. Here's another kind of favorite. And I just noticed these when I was unpacking. This little teapot. Okay, a little tea set again. All right, this is not useful. Now we're really kind of getting into the realm of souvenirs for just, you know, tchotchkes. But this is Bagnell Dam. This is Onondaga Cave. Obviously the same little blank, the same little item. But while Onondaga Cave has a transfer, it has a little bit of hand painting on it, and that gold. This one has a lot of gold on it, and then has an extra transfer on the back. So somebody really took a lot of care in this. I mean, they thought about these things when they made them, you know. So lots and lots of made in Japan things here. More salt and pepper shakers. These are a favorite of mine. These little chairs, again, matching set. And these really, this is a transfer also, but it's a little different process. It looks more like hand painted, and there is some hand painting on there also. Thanks, Maria. Hi, thanks, Maria. So, and these were actually these were a part of a wedding present from Pat and Ralph. And when we opened them, we also got a lovely set of flatware from them, which we are still using to this day, and that's been 16 years, so thank you, Pat, again. But we unwrapped these first, and my husband, at the time, who did not know or really hadn't paid any attention to my Bagnell Dam thing, we unwrapped these as a wedding present, and he's like, oh, look at that. I'm like, oh my God. I was so excited because they really thought about something that they knew would tickle me. They're also fellow collectors and they get it. They just don't collect Bagnell Dam. Actually, there's a pretty classic here's a segue. So there's a pretty classic thing. Pat and Ralph and I used to kind of go out and go to flea markets and whatnot together. And I guess you guys were at an antique mall or something. And Ralph said, "Isn't that dam she collects?" Because, and this segues into my oddball things. It was one of these Bagnell dam pillow slips. See? Yep. And I have not one, not two, but 3 examples of these. And again, you know what? I mean, these are all printed on satin. They're all screen printed on satin, and they're really kind of pretty. This, you know, I've seen these. This was kind of a wartime souvenir. You may have seen them when they come, you know, they're Okinawa or whatever on them. But Bagnell Dam, there it is, you know. So, a couple of other little oddball things. Thanks, Maria. A couple other little oddball things. My pillow slips, which I love. I have donkeys from 2 different eras. It's a little celluloid, his bobblehead. He doesn't work anymore. But, you know, that would be kind of example of just a tchotchke, a toy. He's pretty crispy, so I don't fuss with him too much. Actually, I don't fuss with any of it because it's all been in storage. And then a newer, he's heavy. He's some kind of metal, pot metal, you know, nicely painted but sprayed. It's a metal donkey figurine that says Bagnell Dam. Why? I don't know. We're kind of a far cry from the powder box here. And one more favorite. The jeweled bottle opener for your Rathskeller bar. Fancy. So, what happened? Who knows? Bagnell Dam is no longer open for tours, and, you know, I don't know if I haven't been there in years, but when did this stop? I do know that in the late 80s or early 90s, my parents were going down that way for some reason. I said, "Oh, pick me up a Bagnell Dam souvenir." And they came back and said couldn't find anything. They found a magnet and that was it. So, kind of interesting. When did this stop? I don't know. I mean, we know from this and from this that there were souvenirs available as late as 1972. But, you know, who knows? Now, you know, I know now, I'm sure you can go there and you can get a tie-dye Lake of the Ozarks t-shirt or something, but as far as actual Bagnell Dam souvenirs, I don't really think there's too much you can get. Who knows? Maybe it's time for a trip. Bagnell Dam Lake of the Ozarks is about 172 miles apparently from St. Louis, about 150 miles from Kansas City. So the plant is still producing electricity. My final thing I want to share with you today is my current favorite, the Skee-Ball prize shot glass, which obviously I guess you would have gotten as a prize with your tickets from Skee-Ball. There was a huge Skee-Ball arcade at Dog Patch, which was the little tourist area. It's kind of attached to the dam there. And we just got a Skee-Ball machine at City Museum and Beatnik Bob's, and I believe that there are more to come. So this amuses me greatly. This makes me happy. So anyway, lots more here. Now I'm going to pack it all up and put it away. I'll leave it out for a couple of days and look at it again. There's a lot of stuff here. But thanks for hanging in there with me. I hope you enjoyed this. It's been kind of fun for me. And we'll be back next week with another collection and some more stuff from the archives. So until then, hang in there. Be well, everybody. And can't wait till we see you all at City Museum. Bye-bye.